Ooh. Didn't mean to do that. Let's just undo that mistake. Command Z.
Hey everyone, really excited to be back with you. My name is Josh. I'm here with my good friend Joe. He's one of the pastors. We're going back into our series, What Would Jesus Undo? We're on week 3, speaking about hypocrisy. Joe's going to be sharing a little bit about that.
Well, before we get started, I have a question for you, Josh.
Yes.
It's kind of serious, all right?
Sure.
I need you not to freak out about this.
Okay.
Personal, too. What is in your glove compartment?
I got a ticket in there.
Okay, it's a good start.
There's some hot Funyuns,
Okay.
like a hot Funyun bag in there.
Okay.
And then like the registration.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming, and maybe I'm assuming for people at home too, what's not in your glove compartment is gloves.
Oh.
You dirty hypocrite. I'm kidding. Hey, today we're going to be talking about being hypocrites, and we're going to talk about this word hypocrite. And I truly believe that it's something that Jesus wanted to undo. Hypocrisy, this term hypocrisy. And as we walk through it, it's going to be a little personal. And so I want us to be ready for some questions that we're going to be encountering today. But it's because it's such a big topic. When I think about hypocrisy, I immediately think about when I wasn't a Christian once upon a time. One of the reasons I wasn't is because I thought about other Christians. And I thought about how I never wanted to be like other Christians because they were just so hypocritical. And that's the reason I'm not going to go to church anymore. And maybe even when we think about hypocrites, we think about the news and we think about people who are coming out as that were once upon a time these great American heroes or these great people of the faith. And now you hear about these things that they're wrestling through or these things that are being uncovered, and the immediate response is, man, they're hypocrites. And because of the breadth of this term and because of the gravity of this term, it's a little scary diving into. I think it's going to be one of the toughest topics that we actually have to wrestle through.
Right.
And because it really forces us to ask the question, is what we're saying who we actually are? Is the person that we're portraying on the outside genuinely who we are in our private life? Is what we're doing in public match up to who we are in private? All right, so let's take a poll in the room right now. Raise your hand if you know a hypocrite. Cool, awesome. Now raise your hand if you're sitting next to a hypocrite. Totally kidding, don't do that, that's rude. Sorry. Well, I think really to understand the breadth of this term, we have to go back to the original Greek. And that may seem like super lofty, like, oh, we're going back to the Greek. But actually, this word hypocrisy is rooted in a very simple term, a very simple act, a very simple career. The word hypocrisy is rooted in the word hypocrites. And a hypocrites was a stage actor. And so, just like any stage actor, they would come on the stage and perform a role, and they'd be wearing a giant mask to convince the audience that they were a certain person, that the audience could step into a whole new world. That they would spin these great stories, and then they would run backstage, and they'd grab another mask, and they'd run back on stage, and they'd play a whole new role completely. Well, when we understand hypocrisy in that light, in those terms, I think there's some things that I can wrestle with myself. There's moments where I have found myself wearing different masks. There's moments where I've found myself saying one thing but acting a whole new way, almost like playing a part. And I do ask myself sometimes, why do I do that? What makes it okay for me to put on a mask at a certain time in a certain place around certain people?
Hey, Joe, that's really good. Why don't we pause there for a moment?
Yeah.
Let's talk in our groups about why we put on these masks at times. So go ahead and pause the video. And let's have a quick conversation on that. Hey guys, hope you enjoyed the conversation in your group. Why don't we continue talking a little bit more about hypocrisy? Can you share with us, Joe?
Yeah. So one thing that Jesus was adamantly against, and I believe, as I said earlier, that he wants to undo, is this idea that hypocrisy has to be present. What I think happens with hypocrisy sometimes is we become afraid of it. So for instance, we become afraid of not being good enough, and so we put on a mask. We become afraid of not being the parent that is the superstar Instagram parent of the world, and so we put on a mask. We become afraid of not being the best at our career, so we put on a mask. We become afraid of not being the husband or the wife that we need to be, so we put on a mask. We become afraid of not being the friend that we want, so we put on a mask. And I think Jesus looks at that and he's like, man, you're missing out on something. And the reason I think that is because I see Jesus confront this group called the Pharisees. If you don't know who the Pharisees are, they were a religious group of the time, a Jewish religious group, and they were like the head honchos of the religious system. And Jesus confronts them pretty often, and Jesus has a lot of words to us about compassion and love and grace, but to these people, he's very adamant that hypocrisy cannot exist, that he wants to undo it from the very core. So in Matthew 23, we get this account of Jesus confronting the Pharisees. He says, Matthew 23, verse 27, "What sorrow awaits you, teachers of religious laws, and you Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like whitewashed tombs, beautiful on the outside and filled on the inside with dead people's bones and all sorts of impurity. Outwardly, you look like righteous people, but inwardly, your hearts are filled with hypocrisy and lawlessness." Again, I just want to bounce some of these words off of you. Whitewashed tombs. Outside, gorgeous. Maybe you've been constructed. You've built yourself outward. You are magnificent. But inside, let's be real, you're still a tomb. You're still a tomb. You have all these things outside. You've adorned yourself. You've carved out your place in society and you look great on the outside, but inside you're still dead. Now, I don't know about you, but I never want to be perceived as a whitewashed tomb. I don't know about you, but I never want to have just an outside appearance that doesn't match what's going on inside. And genuinely, I don't think Jesus wants that for us either. I don't think Jesus wants us coming to church, acting like Christians and doing the Christian thing and having the Christian walk and doing the Christian or doing the Christian amen. I think he wants us to live a life that's consistent to what we believe. And now we can go into a moment of us talking about how we wish we were better and how we need to try harder to let our talk and our walk match up. But I don't even think that's what Jesus really wants for us. Like I said, I think he wants us to undo it completely. He wants us to dismantle hypocrisy from its very core. And that happens by us being real with who we are. So there's 3 ways I want to invite you to begin to think through how you can not just run away from hypocrisy, but dismantle it, undo it completely from its core. The first way is to confront reality. In Revelation 3, Jesus gives this powerful message to one of the 7 churches he's writing to. And it says this, "I know all things you do, and that you have a reputation for being alive, but you are dead." You see, these words were written to us. These words were written to ask us to examine our life and not just be a whitewashed tomb, but confront the things that are actually real. For us to pause and take time and say, hey, this is actually the lay of my life. I can easily fall into the trap of preaching one way, of talking one way, of expecting people to live one way, and not matching that up to my own actions. And I don't want to experience that life. I don't want to live that life. And so that's only going to happen by me allowing myself to confront what actually is real. When's the last time you actually paused and stopped and really examined, the realities of who you are? And not just the things you're doing, but who you are. I think it's really great practice to journal. and to take moments to ask people and ask those who are really close to you. Like, hey, are there things that I'm wrestling through that maybe aren't matching up to who I am? Allow yourself the space to confront reality. And what you'll find is you'll also have the ability to re-experience grace, which is the second thing. You need to give yourself permission to experience grace, and maybe experience grace all over again. The whole Christian walk isn't just a straight line. It's almost like a drunken stumbling. You're going to the left, you're going to the right. It's not always straight ahead. And what Jesus wants you to do is to see the world clearly and see yourself clearly, to the point where you allow yourself to experience the grace that Jesus has for your life. Revelation 3 verse 3 says, "Go back to what you heard and believed at first. Hold to it firmly. Repent and turn to me again." Jesus is giving you permission to constantly come back and constantly return and constantly experience why you came to him in the very first place.
It's really good, Joe. Why don't we take a break there? Go ahead and meet with your groups and let's discuss this a little bit further. Hey guys, hope you really enjoyed that conversation. Why don't we take a moment just to finish up for this topic? Joey, cue us back in.
Yeah, I have one more thing that I want to leave you guys with, and that's surround yourself with good people. You need to take advantage of this space. You're in a connection group for a season right now, and surrounding yourself with good people who allow you to confront reality, who allow you to re-experience grace, who remind you of who you are, that's invaluable. You can't put a price tag on that. The people that are in this group right now, I want to encourage you, take advantage of these moments because they're going to last a lifetime and they're going to forever change you. And they have the potential of doing that if you give space to do that. So hypocrisy, it's a big thing. It's a scary thing. It's a thing that I think we all wrestle through at some level because we're trying to put on masks. But surrounding yourself with good people will allow you to take off the mask and be real with not just people in your life, but be real with God.
If you have any closing thoughts, go ahead and share those now. And then let's take some time to pray together after that as well. And guys, just thank you so much for joining us at Connection Group this week. We'll see you again for week 4 soon.